Welcome to the WTR Small Cap Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Gerdeman, Vice Chair and Co-founder and Chief Marketing Officer of Water Tower Research. In today's podcast episode, I'm being joined by Ben Slager, CEO and Chairman of Blue Biofuels, OTC, ticker symbol BIOF. Blue Biofuels is a Florida-based clean tech company that utilizes its patented cellulose to sugar, or CTS, technology to convert abundant non-food plant materials into low-carbon ethanol and sustainable aviation fuel, or SAF as it's commonly called. Also joining is my WTR equity research colleague, Peter Gastrake. Good morning, Ben and Peter, and thank you for joining today's podcast.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
Well, so Ben, just to kick things off, could you please give our listeners a high-level overview of Blue Biofuels' business model?
Sure. Thanks. Blue Biofuel has developed a technology to convert biomass into cellulosic ethanol. We have licensed in a technology from our partner, Vertimas, to convert our cellulosic ethanol to sustainable aviation fuel. But the main part that we do is our proprietary technology to go from plant material to cellulosic ethanol. So what differentiates cellulosic ethanol from regular ethanol? That is the higher CO2 reduction. Very short in a nutshell. When a plant grows, it absorbs CO2, some water and sunlight, converts that into plant material cellulose. When the plant matures, eventually it will die, and that cellulose is converted back by nature, by microorganisms and fungus, will be decomposed into CO2 again, some water and some energy which dissipates in the ground. So basically in nature, there's a CO2 cycle. Plant absorbs it and it emits it. Now, if we process that plant into energy when it's mature, we will burn eventually that energy and release that same CO2 as the plant would have done when it would have died itself. So we would not add extra CO2 to the atmosphere. If you burn fossil fuels, you pump it up from the ground, and then you burn it and you introduce extra CO2 to the atmosphere. So that is the reason why we are reducing the CO2 output from fossil fuels so much with our cellulosic fuel. So why is our cellulosic fuel better than, for example, fuel from corn? Well, corn follows the same principle, but they only make the ethanol from the 20% of the corn kernels. The rest of the plant will decompose in nature and emit the CO2, but you don't get the energy back. So we process the whole plant, and so we decompose basically the same amount of CO2. It's just that we got a lot more energy back. So that is the basis for the CO2 reduction and why the fuel is so environmentally friendly. Now, the interesting part is that it's environmentally friendly, but it's also very efficient because using the whole plant makes sure that we have a very efficient use of all the feedstock, all the biomass, and don't throw away 80% of it. So when we harvest it, that's also a lot more efficient, a lot less logistics and so on, and the cost is lower therefore. And because we get full energy from the whole plant, our cost price is going to be lower than other solutions. So Blue Biofuels has developed that technology to be able to do that in a very efficient way. And we have finalized that technology and are ready to start commercialization. So that's where we are presently, and that's what we do.
That's most interesting, and I know that our listeners will appreciate the granularity of that explanation because it made it really easy to understand. Before I turn it over to Peter, Ben, would you be kind enough to just give us a 30,000-foot flyby of your professional background that led you to where you're at today?
Oh, my professional background. I'm a chemical engineer and I've studied master's in business in the Netherlands. Originally, I'm from the Netherlands. I'm here in the US for 14 years now. I've been working on blue biofuels for the last 7, 8 years and brought it to where we are now. Prior to that, I've always had companies which I grew from idea to patent to production and then to sell or cooperation with other companies. That's what I've done in my whole professional life in the Netherlands before I came to the US. In the US, I got in touch with gentlemen in blue biofuels, and the rest is history.
Excellent. Thanks, Ben. And I will now turn it over to Peter Gastrike to ask some questions.
Good.
Okay, thanks, Tim, and thanks very much, Ben. That is a great introduction for the company. Just want to ask a little bit more about this the CTS process that you mentioned, and whether if we can see if we can elaborate a bit further in terms of some of the measurable competitive advantages when compared to the corn ethanol. So, for example, is it the type of feedstock? Do you have co-products? How should we think about it in terms of cost and CI score? Is it your location? What are some of those specific advantages?
Sure. Let me start with the CI score. I touched it already in the introduction. Our CI score, we can run it up to 80%, and with some special measures, we can even go to 90% due to the nature of the fact that we use the whole plant as compared to other processes, just a part of the plant. So that's number one. Um, that leads automatically into a much higher yield per acre of ethanol gallons per year. We are able to yield about 3 to 4,000 gallons of ethanol per acre per year. As compared to corn, it's going to be 500 to 600 gallons per acre per year. So that's a big multiple, which then again leads into much more efficient land use, less cost for harvesting, etc. It's just going to be more efficient. Um, Further on, a lot of crops are seasonal crops. We intend to grow an energy crop as a starter here in Florida, Central Florida. There has been a lot of orange groves here in Florida, which unfortunately are decreasing a lot due to problems they have with diseases. They're looking for alternative crops. So there's basically 1 million acres available to grow energy crops. And so that's a very wide available feedstock and a very constant feedstock, which we intend to use. Um, Other feedstocks, we can basically use all agricultural waste. So not just the fruits of the plant, like in wheat or in corn or in sugarcane. We use the waste, like sugarcane bagasse. That's a product which is the waste after sugar production. Corn. Corn is grown with about 80 million acres per year in the US. 40% of that is used for corn ethanol for fuel, which is mixed into the gasoline. 60% is used for food purposes, but none of that uses the corn stalks, the corn stover, which are plowed under the ground and basically decayed. Actually, they only need 20% to make the land fertile to put that back. The rest of the corn stover is basically waste and cost money to plow under or do anything else with it. Now, same with wheat straw. There's about 60 million acres of wheat grown in the US where it produces wheat straw. And I said before, there's sugarcane bagasse. There are many wood areas where they have the wood waste after maintaining the forest, etc. So actually, there's an endless supply of biomass available for our process. So that's a very important point, and we have developed the technology with help also of DOE grants. We upscaled it to be ready to commercialize, to commercial scale. We have finalized that successfully, reported it back to the DOE, as we also have shared with the market. So these are a couple of essential points where we differ from other processes.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Low CI score, very, high yield there. Also, sitting here in Minnesota, I can appreciate that you don't have to deal with the seasons. It's 25 below outside right now, so you're going to
Yeah,
have
yeah,
a crop in production throughout the year.
correct.
But yeah, that's very interesting. I just want to, you mentioned about the commercial scaling. Could we talk a little bit more about your strategy there? Do you have a specific timeline and in terms of that scaling and that strategy, with this technology, do you plan to be an owner operator, or are you looking to license that technology to scale?
Well, first of all, we will build our first factory because, when we have a running factory, if we would license it to any other parties, they would want to see that, and then, it would be simple copy and paste. Uh, Although we have finalized the development to build a first of a kind factory in any technology, in any stage of technology, ready for commercialization, you're going to run into some new things, what you're going to learn and what you're going to do better on the second time. So we are going to build the first plan is to build a production facility of around 25 million gallons per year. We will do that in frost-proof, where we have purchased a large plot of land of 35 acres to build our factory on. That is ongoing at the moment, not the building, but that's where we are at the moment. So things are ready to move forward. We are in the process of funding to find funding for building the factory, which looks promising, and there are many contacts and leads in that direction. But that is where we are in the process. That's where we want to go, build one first factory, then most likely step and repeat here in Florida, and potentially we could also build bolt-on facilities to existing corn ethanol plants to use their corn stover. That's a possibility too. But I think we're going to have our hands full for the next 2 years to start building our own factory and getting that operational. And then during that time, of course, we're going to develop follow-up plans. But first things first, and that's where we are now. We have identified the place where we're going to build. We have identified crop area around it. We have done growing tests there. They were all very successful. And, that is, what we're going to put 100% of our attention on to concentrate to get that right.
Okay, very good. And so with the CTS, you'll have low carbon ethanol as your output. But as you mentioned earlier, you do have a strategy to move into sustainable aviation fuel production, or SAF. Could you
Yeah.
talk a bit about the company's strategy with respect to SAF? And I understand you have a JV with Vertimas. Could you also talk about the role of that JV?
Yeah, basically we have a JV 50/50 owned facility, 50% by us, 50% by Vertimas, to produce sustainable aviation fuel from our cellulosic ethanol. Because at the end of the day, sustainable aviation fuel is a fuel which is going to be needed into the future, long into the future, because airplanes don't look to be electrified like cars, although we don't believe that the whole car park will be electrical. That is simply logistically and technically not possible, even though if you would want to. So cellulosic ethanol as a mix into the gasoline, or we can even make gasoline, biogasoline. These products are all drop-in fuels, which can be sold into the market through existing channels, and nothing needs to be changed into existing cars, etc. So that's why they call it a drop-in fuel. Regarding SAF, that is an ongoing process. Certification is ongoing, and you start to deliver into those markets with a lowest percentage, which over time goes up to maximum technically allowed 50% of biofuels mixed into Jet A to form a sustainable aviation fuel. You see that European countries are going to demand more and more SAF into planes, even to land there, you have to have a certain percentage of SAF, or you're going to pay fines, which run up to high numbers, and they are expensive. So we see that as a very strong future market for the next, well, 20 years at least, if not more. And the demand is going to grow because in spite of all what is going on in the world, the aviation is still growing and is projected to grow a lot. So the need for fuel and the need for SAF is going to projected to be grow a lot as well.
Okay, thank you. So, of course, investors are not just investing, in something green for the sake of green. They're wanting to look for the profitability potential. I
Mhm.
wonder if you can talk about, what kind of impact when you're moving from low carbon ethanol into SAF, what kind of impact that might have on your unit profitability, and how should investors think about the durability of your revenue stack and the role of tax credits in that revenue?
Yeah. So the basic trust factor I have that we're going to be profitable there, or well, we are going to be profitable, and we will remain profitable, is twofold. We think we are cost leader in producing SAF and also cellulosic ethanol. So if those products are going to be absorbed by the market will pay the price which is necessary to provide those products. That's just demand and supply. Um, Presently, there are serious incentives on it, which is basically the cherry on the cake. And we've seen that those incentives have been in place for a long time and will, according to our estimations, remain in place for a long time because other suppliers are not able to produce the products for such an attractive price as we can. So that means that, because we cannot serve the whole market, it's impossible. So if, any legislation bodies or administrations demand SAF to be produced and used by airlines, they have to pay the price which is necessary to make them because nobody's going to make that against a loss, right? So now, if we are cost leader, we are always on the long end of the stick, and we're always to make the profits, which are going to be higher than our competition. Basically, we would be able to be profitable without the incentives, but the incentives, of course, is a very welcome extra money to finance further growth and so on and so on. We estimate that that will remain like that for a whole while and that the market will stay in place. We also see that the present administration has been supportive to biofuels and remain that and have expanded on support compared to previous administrations. So we are pretty confident that that will be the case for at least 10, 20 years to come. And unfortunately, I don't have a crystal ball what happens after 20 years, but I think, if we are confident for that amount of time, anybody should be it with us.
So, as a pre-revenue company, investors will be very focused on your financing and capital strategy. How do you plan to, support this commercial scaling? You mentioned earlier the DOE tie-up.
Yeah, well, there are basically, a couple of roads to do that. There is, of course, commercial capital. There again, you have two types. That is, one is equity and one is loans. And of course, you have programs, from the administration, government, EPA, DOE, etc., which are either loan guarantee and grants. So we're looking at all the possibilities to get this thing done. I don't want to go ahead and say what we are exactly doing at this moment. We will keep the market informed as soon as we take step by step and share that with investors at that time.
Okay, thank you. And then on that note, regarding investors, what would you suggest that they should be focused on in terms of signposts over the next, say, 6 to 12 months?
Well, we will keep the market informed. And as said, we have made a lot of progress physically. Also, we're able to raise sufficient money to execute on all that. We will again keep the market informed on the next steps where we are. But I don't want to go into that too much right now. We will clearly share that with the market through our channels.
Okay, great. Well, Ben, this has been a great, comprehensive, view of your company and strategy. Just want to ask, before I pass over to Tim, are there any concluding remarks that you'd like to provide?
No, I think we have covered most of the things. And, if people are interested, go to our website. There's a lot of information. There's contact information. There is uh, press release information. There's technical information. There's information about the team, et cetera, et cetera. So basically, everything what is important in a company is covered there. If there are remaining questions, there's a contact form, and they can always, go ahead and pose those questions to us.
Okay, fantastic. Well, Ben, thanks again so much for your time today. Certainly an exciting time for your company. We'll continue to follow Blue Biofuels as you execute your strategy, and we hope you can join us again for a future event. So, thank
Sure.
you again very much.
Thank you so much too, and have a wonderful day and all the best.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
Tim,
Ben
over
and
to you.
Peter. Yeah, thanks, Peter. Ben, thanks so much for joining us today to discuss blue biofuels. And as I mentioned early on, I greatly appreciate the simplicity with which you explained a more complex business model, because I know our listeners will appreciate it. So best wishes as 2026 unfolds for the company.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, as well as visiting www.watertowerresearch.com to stay up to speed on the company's small cap written research reports, podcasts, fireside chats, industry specific symposiums, and conference schedules. We will see you next time for another edition of the WTR Small Cap Spotlight podcast. Finally, a special thanks to the producer and editor of the podcast, Krista Fitzpatrick.